I have an update, and it is in reference to my most recent video, which I have pulled up on screen. And this is talking about whether or not NIO's technology might be so good, it might be so far advanced and so superior to so many other companies that they might end up getting listed by the DOD or the Pentagon, or having an assertion that they are working with the Chinese military. So this is what I found. This is the Federal Register. And a couple of things that are noteworthy to me, certainly, and I think you'll also find them interesting. First off, your date and timestamp for me recording this video right now, it's Saturday, February 14th, 2026, and it's mid-afternoon as I'm recording this. So this date for this notice by the Defense Department hasn't even happened yet, February 17th, 2026, which I find kind of fascinating. But if we actually start looking into this and dig in a little bit, this is the Notice of Availability of Designation of Chinese Military Companies. And there's a bit of a breakdown, if you want to get into that, some of the legality, the verbiage, and that sort of thing. But then they've got this list of companies, and I'm going to read off a few that are kind of interesting to have on here. Alibaba. And the reference for Alibaba, it says Alibaba, or it reads rather, that Alibaba is indirectly affiliated with SASAC. Alibaba is a military civil fusion contributor to the Chinese defense industrial base because it is affiliated with MIIT. If we keep going, there's Baidu, there's BYD, there's CALB, CALB, and if you note, this is a pretty extensive list. There are a lot of entities on here. Now this one, I want to pause here for just a second. CATL. CATL is indirectly affiliated with MIIT, and it is directly and indirectly affiliated with SASAC. More on CATL a little bit later, so hang in there. We'll come back to it. I'm obviously not going to read all of these off, but I did want to get to this one, NIO. NIO is directly and indirectly affiliated with SASAC. NIO is a military civil fusion contributor to the Chinese defense industrial base because it is affiliated with MIIT. And you've got these references. I'm going to link everything that I'm sharing here in the description of the video. I'll probably also create chapters or timestamps to make it easier to navigate this, or for a reference point for future use, anybody who wants to come back and look it up. But the list goes on. And so here's the next thing I want to share. And let's see if we can learn here together. I've got a couple of things that I want to point out from this. So the Office of the Federal Register, there's a bit of a breakdown here, but I want to actually come down to, I've highlighted something. How can I use the Federal Register to affect federal rulemaking? Federal agencies are required to publish notices of proposed rulemaking in the Federal Register to enable citizens to participate in the decision-making process of the government. This notice and comment procedure is simple. A proposed rule, so under number 1 here, a proposed rule published in the Federal Register notifies the public of a pending regulation. 2, any person or organization may comment on it directly, either in writing or orally at a hearing. Many agencies also accept comments online or via email. And if you're wondering, there is an email here. So I'll show you that in just a minute. The comment period varies, but it usually is 30, 60, or 90 days. In each Federal Register document, the issuing agency gives detailed instructions on how, when, and where a viewpoint may be expressed. In addition, agencies must list the name and telephone number of a person to contact for further information. And under number 3 here, when agencies publish final regulations in the Federal Register, they must address the significant issues raised in comments and discuss any changes made in response to them. Agencies also may use the notice and comment process to stay in contact with constituents and to solicit their views on various policy and program issues. And let's see if I can find you the, either way, I'm going to link this so you can check it out. Here you go. So you can snail mail, you can call, and there is an email address there. So let's keep it moving though, because I was curious about this. Now, this is not a really recent article. This is from August of 2023, but it was after digging, and what they found is that Tesla was heavily reliant on China for 40% of battery supply chain. And that's where I'm going to come back to where I mentioned CATL, because this is recent. This is the battery market share, the global EV battery market share in 2025. CATL with over 39% of it, BYD with over 16%. And this is that breakdown. So I wanted to share that as well. Also, probably not important, probably has nothing to do with any of this, but it's kind of an interesting post I just wanted to share. Shout out NIO Switzerland for that. Also, let's go back to Friday, February 13th, when the supposed list was published and then pulled back. And this is that same day where Ford's top executive spoke to Trump administration officials about a potential roadmap for Chinese automakers to build cars in America by partnering with U.S. car companies. This from Bloomberg. Finally, let's talk about the short-term stock price action for NIO. And specifically, we'll actually come back to this share in just a second, because this was the pre-market. And it was, this would have been around, this is 8:40, 8:45 Eastern time. And this is the move we saw. Now, I want to consider two different scenarios here. Maybe, because if we come back, and note that once again, as I mentioned before, this date is February 17th. It is not February 17th. February 13th is when this was maybe accidentally put out there. Let's say maybe that's what happened. Maybe it was an accidental thing, and then they realized, oh, we aren't supposed to put this out yet, so they pulled it. I don't know. And so we'll see. Let's see what happens on the 17th. But also, what if maybe this was, and shout out to Laser in his most recent video, where he not only teased a $21 price potential for NIO even in this year of 2026. What? Tell me if I got that wrong, Laser. I think I heard you right. But in his video, he mentioned that perhaps this was a tester, or maybe they were trying to shake some shares loose from skittish investors. I don't know, but I think it gets even more compelling if something like that ends up playing out once again, maybe on the 17th. Let's see what happens. But in the very near term, and as you'll note, I've kept it at the bottom of the screen for most of my videos over the last year plus, and that is the three short-term stock price indicators. And I plan to keep them here until we see NIO stock above $15. Just heads up, that's what I'm thinking with this. And that's because I want to track this until we're hopefully clearly in an uptrend by that time. But because we're talking about them, let's focus and hone in on the NIO stock trade volume. And if you'll note, this is when NIO made the most recent move. This is when NIO teased profitability. They're probably going to report that in March, sometime in March. But this is the only day where we've had 100 million share trade volume in this year of 2026. So I will keep an eye on that trade volume, and you see how much lower most of these days are. And this, because NIO has maintained most of that move on very low volume, is why I've remained bullish in the short term. because with low volume, especially if we go to the second stock price indicator and note these continued elevated spiking FTDs, which go back quite a while, those continue to be very high. And with low trade volume and high FTDs, it should be a lot easier for shorts to suppress or take the stock price down. And yet, in the most recent term, just in this last, let's say, week to 10 days, that hasn't been the case. So, is it time for sentiment to shift? I don't know. I think we've still got a ways to go with respect to that. But I wanted to share what I found here on this Saturday, February 14th, with all of you. And I really hadn't gotten back to the comment section from that most recent video. So I'll frankly just drop the link for this one and try and respond to everyone in that way. So have a great day or night whenever you see this. I'll see you all again very soon.